All right. What is up, guys? We have a very special guest today on the FBA Happy Hour. We have Chris Grant, Clear the Shelf. You want to give a little intro about yourself? There's so much stuff that you do and so much things you've been a part of. I don't want to miss any of them. So I'll
Sure.
let you do the intro.
How long of an intro do you want? Do you want the short version or the long version?
Give them the long version so you get
All
everything
right.
in there.
So, all right. So if we talk about like when I first started arbitrage, essentially it was eighth grade. That'd be the first foray into arbitrage I had. We were buying pizza from Pizza Hut and for about 50 cents a slice, and we were selling it for about a buck a slice, a buck 25. At the end of the year due to inflation, uh, and uh, and we used that money to buy our eighth grade class a class trip. I went to a really small school. We also ended up redoing the basketball floors in the gym and buying new
Wow.
backboards and all kinds of stuff. So it went really well. And then uh, on top of the pizza, I kind of found our first replen with snack cakes and juice drinks and all the things that you would use as an upsell with pizza to school kids. And we sold at lunchtime. We had an open store, and then we also sold during recess, where we had another open store because it was kindergarten through 10th grade where I went to school. And that's really the first foray I had into arbitrage, other than selling candy bars door to door. But I didn't get to keep that money. After that, I did a lot of landscaping and outdoor jobs until I turned about 18, which is when I opened up my eBay account. And I started flipping old cell phones and stuff like that on eBay. And then I eventually upgraded to flipping MacBooks and iPads and all of that stuff. Did a little bit of drop shipping in there, and then finally found Amazon and figured out the platform and how to do RA and OA and stuff like that. And then I started making videos and helping out in Facebook groups, and we've created several courses. I've owned lead lists in the past. I've done wholesale leads in the past. Uh, we co-created IP Alert and Rev ROI, Sales Gazer, and a bunch of other stuff. Some stuff that's gone, and I haven't done it in years. So it's been a long, fun journey.
No, that's amazing. And yeah, I've actually don't think I've ever, well, obviously I've known your story and we've met, but yeah, the whole flipping pizza thing, I don't think I've ever heard anyone kind of do that.
It was sort of I'd love to take credit for the idea myself, but it was sort of uh, it was a couple ideas kind of mashed together with our teacher and our in in the kind of school that I went to. We had around the seventh, eighth grade, we started learning some things like entrepreneurship and outside of just regular classwork. And so we were trying to come up with ideas of ways to make money. And we finally figured out, that's the day, or that's the thing we could easily make money on. Kids love pizza. Parents don't mind paying a buck, a slice instead of having to pack up a lunch for their kids. And so it was really good. In a school of about 150 kids, we probably sold 60% of them pizza every single week.
Wow. So did you have to like cut in like almost like the principal or something, or like did they just deliver it and they were like cool with them, like not buying
So
cafeteria food or whatever?
we had an after school field trip. We didn't even have a cafeteria. So if kids
Oh,
wanted hot lunch at my school, we had we had a hospital across the street, and we had a contract with them to bring in hospital trays of food that you could buy for like $4 a day if you wanted. And then in the contract, they did not deliver on Fridays at all. And so there was a prime opening for the kids who spent $4 a day on lunch for us to be able to snag that money. So we did what was called an after school field trip. We weren't allowed to do it during school, but Mrs. McDermott, one of the best teachers I ever had, she said, "Listen, if you can get your parents to agree to it, we'll go hit up a couple of pizza places and we'll talk to the managers and come up with an agreement where we can buy pizza from them at a discount and in bulk." And Pizza Hut was the manager who said okay, and they weren't even open at 10 o'clock on Friday mornings when we needed the pizza delivery. So he's like, I'll come in early. I'll make the pizzas. I'll deliver them. And of course, we tried to give a generous of a tip as an eighth grader knows. And he brought them over every week at about 10:30 to 11 o'clock, and then they were pre-sliced, ready to go. All we had to do was put them on paper plates and deliver them to the classrooms.
That's amazing. So what was your first, I guess, foray into Amazon? What did you first start with?
Excuse me. So when I started on Amazon, it was still very appropriate to sell thrifted items on Amazon. And so I started with books. That was the very first thing. It was some of my biggest hauls too. Were things like textbooks. I lived near Ohio State University, so I could go down to the thrift stores down there and find textbooks all day long. I was not against looking in dumpsters behind dorms and getting textbooks out of there, because it's surprising how many kids just throw away books that their parents spent $600 on. Uh, and if there was not a Keystone Light or a Bush Latte spilled on it, then I would clean it off and I'd flip it on Amazon. But then we went out a little further, and I didn't have very much cash, and so I would buy electronics that were still sealed, video games that were still sealed, um, dead stock that I could find. One of the best finds I ever had outside of books and things like that was actually, I think it was 250 packages of adult diapers at uh, what was that? A Good Samaritan thrift store. And we ended up selling through all of those. We bought them for about a buck a piece, and we sold them for something like 40 or $45 a package because they were dead stock. They weren't made anymore. And a surprising number of those actually went overseas to Japan. And then I start doing some Googling. I was like, 20% of these are going overseas. Why is that? And then I found out about some of the adult men who liked wearing diapers over in Japan, and that was a whole weird thing. But I've sold a ton of different stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and just like kind of like the curiosity. Yeah, I do remember that too, where I was also a bookseller, like in thrifting, and it was like totally acceptable to like just grab something as long as it was like newly packaged and not open, and just sell
Yeah,
it without even thinking about it.
and it was I mean, it was kind of cool back then because, if there was a problem, like I could actually help the customer. Nowadays you don't know whether or not your email is going to make it to the Amazon customer. Maybe
Yeah.
they've got the messages turned off. Maybe it's in a junk drawer somewhere, whatever. But back then, I sold a board game. It was brand new. It was like a $300 board game, and the person I was using commingled inventory, or what sellers nowadays call manufacturer SKU, or whatever that is inside of Seller Central. Uh, and they got someone else's. They got a used one. It was missing pieces. And so I was able to reach out to him and be like, hey, listen, I said, you didn't get mine. I said, I've got pictures of what I sent into Amazon. I said, you must have gotten someone else's. And I'd love to just refund you your money. I'm going to be out the board game, but you get all your money back. Could you remove your negative feedback? Because it was like feedback number 2 on my account. Uh, and that was all above board with Amazon back then. And they were like, "Oh yeah, it happens, no big deal. Hope things go better for you." And it was amazing.
Wow, that's like unheard of now. Uh yeah, books do have amazing ROI when you can find them. If you guys have any questions, definitely drop them for Chris. Um yeah, what does your business look like today? Compared to what you were doing?
It is night and day different. From thrifting, we went to bulk books. From bulk books, we went to retail arbitrage. we were buying Gaylords and putting them in my garage from Half Price Books and a few other small like mom and pop resale stores. Uh, we were buying, I don't know, maybe 10 a week if we, could process through them that quickly. So I just had a one car garage. And and then we were taking all the duds and we were reselling them back to Half Price Books, and then getting rid of a ton of the stuff. And then we went to retail arbitrage, and I was spending every spare second I could on the road, like 12 hours a day on the weekends. Taking donuts to managers at Meijer and Walgreens and trying to get in the back room before they put the clearance out. And that did really, really well for us. It was a ton of fun, but being away from home, basically anytime I had free time, was miserable. And we wanted to start a family. And I was like, I don't want to do that when I've got a kid around. And so then we transitioned to OA. And it was great. I loved being able to have the same style of business without necessarily having to be on my feet 12 hours a day. And so we did that. And then finally, prep centers came around and we transitioned to a prep center. And now we still do OA. We're not the biggest seller on the block. We're never going to be. But we sell enough to take care of all of our bills if everything else went away. But what I find most fulfilling is teaching, helping, creating softwares, and anything that'll just help the community be better, faster, stronger sellers. And that's where I probably spend 80% of my time, between that and answering messages from people who just have questions.
Wow, that's awesome. So I guess first, I'm like just curious about this. Were there prep centers kind of like when you got started, or is that something that just kind of evolved as I guess you
Uh,
kind of evolved?
and when I first got started, I don't know if, at least I didn't know about prep centers being a thing. The first prep center that I'm aware of, I want to say came online in like 2015 or 16, and they're still around. I think I think that's when they came around. But so it was still a fairly new concept, but it caught fire really, really quick.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a great thing. And I know a lot of people ask and are always curious. So when you started, did you have a full-time job? And kind
I
of how did
did.
you balance that? Everyone always asks that.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I sold insurance full time in a family business for 12 years. And I put in 40 to 50 hours a week there for, I don't know, probably 3.5 years of selling on Amazon. And so I don't know if the right word is juggling. You're just you're getting by. If I wasn't asleep, I was working on something, whether it was selling insurance or customer service, or if it was, the Amazon business, whatever it was, I was having to do something every minute of every day that I was awake. And then finally, after a few years, and we were just like, you know what? Uh, it's time to pick one or the other. And so I said, we don't really have the we don't really have the business to go full time, but I'm just going to take a leap of faith. I had 6 months of renewals in my contract selling insurance, which I figured would, like, if I can't figure it out in 6 months, I can just go get another insurance job and sell again. But it ended up working out. So I said I quit, and went off and did the Amazon thing full time.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's always hard when to decide to quit. I kind of envy Michaela. She never really had to make that decision, I guess.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. That is the biggest regret that I have, is not starting something of my own sooner.
Yeah.
Uh, the insurance business, it was something like, in the insurance business, I had the opportunity at the age of 20 to go and buy my own book of business, and I decided not to. I wasn't confident enough. I wasn't sure if I, had the maturity to do it. And that was a big mistake, especially the way that the insurance industry changed. And then as I got a little bit older and, had my own family, I was like, I better do this now or I'll never do it. And I'll just be selling insurance for someone else forever.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you there. I actually left an insurance trade pub. So like very familiar with insurance, and it was for independent agents. And yeah, it could be a lucrative business, but also a lot has changed. I was only there for 5 years, but yeah, when I left, it was pretty crazy.
Which publication? IAA or
It was Insurance Newsnet. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah.
What's up, Reseller Madness? If you guys have questions, drop them. It's not a question. Do you have any questions, Michaela?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay.
I just think it's cool to hear how people got started, like slinging pizza.
Yeah, no, definitely. What advice would you have, I guess, now? Or maybe how about this? What would your advice differ? Like you've been doing this a while. How would you have gotten started like, I don't know, 5 years ago? And then what would you suggest someone get started now?
Uh, my advice would probably be a little bit more nuanced now. Back in the day, I was like, listen, if you're interested in selling on Amazon, like do it now. Get all the credit cards you can, get any money you can, do it. If if I was talking to an 18 to 20-year old, that would probably be it. Like, listen, if you're gonna uh, mess up now, or you're going to find out that you really have the knack for this and you're going to absolutely crush it for the next 10 years. And this cash flow business can roll over into something more long term. Michaela is a perfect example. She's got the Amazon business as cash flow, and then she's got a rental property business that she's growing up. Uh, you know, when Michaela, I don't know how old you are now, Michaela, but when
24.
Michaela's 24, so, when you're 34, you're going to be able to just collect rent checks and the Amazon business cash flows and keep compounding properties. But if someone is a little bit older and they've got a family, they've got kids, they've got a job they got to handle. My biggest thing is calculate the risk that you can comfortably take. Do that, put everything you can into it, be consistent rather than taking a course or watching all these videos and then working your tail off for 2 or 3 weeks and then getting burned out. Have your egg or whatever you're going to start with, and be consistent for the next 6 months, the next year, and see where it gets you. And then in a year or two, you could easily grow this into something, where you can quit your job.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I have to say, I've done the OA challenge, and you could explain that in a second. And one thing that really sticks out, I've done a couple courses now that I kind of run a boot camp I'm always just buying courses just to see what else is in there and kind of how other people approach it. I've just always liked your approach where it just is very like, hey, like almost like do what you can, like make it sustainable, don't be going like all crazy, like kind of learn and like almost put it to your lifestyle. I feel like you were always just like, you weren't like, oh, like max out the cards, do like, you're just like, no, like you gotta do what you're comfortable with. Can you kind of cover a little bit more of that kind of like
Yeah.
philosophy, how you go about it?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the big, like, for some people, going all in and maxing out credit cards, like that is the right move. And if I were 20 years old again, that's probably what I would do. One, I'm a bit of a risk taker, so I'm happy to be in that kind of what do you call it? I'm okay being uncomfortable. For some people, that is completely against their everything that's inside of them, and that's okay too. The nice thing is that Amazon works on both of those spectrums. If you want to go head first and drop 100K that you don't have on credit cards or a line of credit, or listen, I know somebody who took money from a loan shark. Okay, $250,000 from a loan shark, like break your kneecaps, not just some nice guy with some money, kind of loan shark. And they crushed it. All right. There were times when they're like, we're not sure we're going to be able to pay this guy back, but they powered through all of that. But then there's people who they don't have that ability, or they don't, they can't go back and live with mom and dad if everything blows up in their face. And for those people, you got to say, okay, instead of being able to make like life-changing money in 3 months, you're going to be able to make life-changing money in 3 years, as long as you are consistent. If that's an hour a day or 3 hours a week, whatever it is, that's all right, as long as you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, no, that's a good. And before we get, can you kind of cover what the OA challenge is and kind of maybe how you even came up with it? I have no idea how you came up with it or the idea.
So the OA challenge is something that I wish I could say was my idea, but it wasn't. It was actually something that Chris Green and Nate McAllister kind of were like, "Hey, this would probably do really, really well, and you're probably the guy to do it." So I've got to give them a lot of credit. Chris Green had done a challenge style course for Merch by Amazon when it was really, really popular. And a ton of people absolutely loved the way that it worked because it was live. You could interact, you could ask questions. And so we brought that over to the online arbitrage world. We thought about incorporating retail arbitrage, but going live in a Target ends up getting you kicked out of the store. So, but essentially what we do is we get together for 90 minutes to 2 hours per day for 14 days straight, no days off. And I go over basically everything that I've learned or been able to learn from other people over the past 10 years. We deep dive into Keepa. We deep dive into manual sourcing, reverse sourcing, using automated tools like Tactical Arbitrage, SellerAmp, RevSeller, all of that stuff. We'll talk about how to use ChatGPT and AI to supplement your arbitrage business. And we try to give everybody a bit of a roadmap so they can take what they've learned and build a good business off of it. And one of the questions I always get asked, well, why do you do it for 14 days straight with no breaks? It's a little crazy because it's like at the end of the 2 weeks, I'm exhausted. But the reason we do that is to show how the consistency works in real life. If I'm willing to do that for 14 days consistently to try to teach everything that I know, and then you just make that 2 hours per day part of your routine, and you take everything you learn over the last 2 weeks and now spend your time doing that over the next 20 weeks, I don't want to say it's guaranteed you'll be successful, but it's guaranteed that your business should move forward in some manner, whether that's better products you're sourcing or actually getting your business off the ground or whatever that is for whoever comes through the challenge.
Yeah, no, from going through the challenge, I did it, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, but I do check in, like I'm in the VIP group or whatever, so I will check in. Yeah, I think there's just something to be said for that 14 days. It's just, you're just like totally immersed. It doesn't really give you, and this isn't a bad thing or a knock on it, but it doesn't really give you like almost time to question or like kind of talk about it to friends, but I don't know, that's kind of dumb. Or it's like, no, like I'm doing this for 14 days. Like I'll talk to you guys in like 2 weeks. Like I just have to do this right now. I think that could be like a huge benefit since there's just always a ton of like, I don't know, that seems like stupid. Like people get in trouble for that, like all that kind of stuff. I think that targeted 14 days is just really, really important.
Yeah.
Really appreciate Chris. Yep, he's there's some irony in the insurance guy taking risks. 100%. For when you started now, what do you think all of these softwares being made? Do you think there is still room for more PL softwares to compete with IL or Sellerboard? If you don't know what IL is, that's Inventory Labs.
And the PL, they're not talking private label. They must be talking profit and loss.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there is absolutely more room. And here's one reason I know that is You mentioned two softwares, Inventory Lab and Seller Board, but there are several others out there that already exist in the marketplace and have market share. ScanPower, for example. ScanPower was the largest, scanning app slash inventory management tool out there for a long time. The last time I ever read any stats on it, it's actually still used majority wise by sellers who are doing over like 7 figures, 8 figures, that kind of stuff. Like they have like 11% of the market share among bigger sellers. But yeah, there is still more room for other softwares. Here's the thing: when it comes to SaaS, my opinion is that you don't necessarily have to be first to market, although first mover advantage is really nice. But what you do need to do is you need to scratch an itch that's either your own or in the community. And if you can build the best damn product there is, that actually addresses a problem that people are having, you're going to end up finding your market fit. And I mean, that's what we've done with all of our Rev ROI. What was the problem there? I had to go to 3 different websites to get discount gift cards and cash back. And I was like, well, why can't we just put this in one place? So that's what we did there. I was scratching my own itch, and we found the product market fit afterwards. Same with IP Alert. There was a time when IP complaints were never a thing. And then they came all of a sudden kind of out of the blue and started socking sellers in the mouth. And so it was, okay, let's build IP Alert based on who we know is filing IP complaints, and then product market fit came afterwards. So there's still a lot of room for software tools out there to be made, especially if they're super high quality.
Yeah, I love if somebody like married Inventory Lab and Seller Board, and they just made this like giant, just awesome. Because like if you have Seller Board, I love Seller Board, the way the AI and everything, and like the UI and everything. But obviously you can't do like inventory off of Seller Board. So then you'd have to either do Seller Central or 2D Workflow or Inventory Lab. But if you could like mesh those two together and create like this mega child of the two,
right? Yeah, that would be killer. And if they brought in Boxed from ScanPower, that'd be amazing.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, even if like even if they would just let like the Inventory Labs like buy costs sync over. I know why they don't do that, because I guess they're kind of competitors or whatever, but that would just be like super, super helpful. If you guys have other questions, drop them. There was a question I had. Oh, can you kind of go through what IP Alert is? I get a ton of questions. Some people in our Discord, and I always explain that's not how it works. That some people, submit stuff. So, like, do you think that it gets marked? And so other people don't buy it. But I know you kind of do it yourself. And I've reported stuff, and it's kind of a pain, no offense, but like I get why you do it. But like you have to actually upload the documents, show that someone did this, and like it is like a real thing. People just aren't doing it to do it.
Yeah, that was exactly why from the very beginning I said I've got to have proof. Now I can look at Keepa, I can go out and I can look at the seller forums, and I do all of that. I can check Reddit and Twitter and ask people that I trust who have way bigger businesses than I do. But that was my number one worry, because back when tactical arbitrage was new, there was the ability to mark things as mismatches, and when you did that, it would go in and it would mark something as a mismatch for the entire community. Well, after a couple of months, you start seeing things disappear that you knew showed up before. And when Alex, the creator of Tactical Arbitrage, looked into it, he could see that there were just a couple of bad actors who were hiding tons of profitable inventory from other sellers. And with that knowledge, I was like, okay, we do have to make a hurdle to submit, information on an IP complaint. And then I do manually review every single one. Even to this day, I have not outsourced that to a team member or a virtual assistant or anything like that. I need to check it myself, because I go and I need to check Keepa. I need to check and make sure that it's not, 123 at qq.com who submitted the IP complaint, and all kinds of stuff. And so I also try to remove brands. I've got, what do I have on deck for this week? I need to go in and check Indy Lee and Keurig Green Mountain because I'm pretty sure that they've stopped filing IP complaints. Starbucks filed IP complaints for like 2 months, and then we had to pull them. Walgreens seems to go back and forth with their own store brand. So we got to be really careful about keeping our database really, really clean, both on adding new brands and getting rid of ones to let the community know it's okay to really sell those.
Yeah, and I could have sworn I heard you say somewhere like you actually do test buys to kind of verify as well, right?
Yeah, before It Cosmetics was gated across the entire platform of Amazon, I usually go and spend $500 to $600 on inventory, and I go and put it in on one of my seller accounts. And if I don't get any IP, and what I try to do is I try to go 5 to 10 units deep across 10 or 15 different ASINs. That way, I've got a large enough data set to know whether or not I'm going to get hit with an IP complaint or not. And I also let the inventory marinate a little bit, so I don't try to sell out as quickly as I can. Like if I were actually trying to flip the inventory, I will let it sit there for a week or two to kind of leave some bait out there for people to file IP complaints against me.
Yeah, I feel like that you'll definitely get their attention if you jump on like 10 different listings.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had no idea you were like overhead at that. I think it was John and I. We were talking, and he's like, "Yeah, Chris Gritz, like that's it." I was like, "Wait, what?" And I've been sitting here like saying, "Oh my god, iPeeler is like the greatest thing ever." Had no idea this entire time.
Yeah. So that idea came off of something really, really simple. When about a week or two after IP complaints really became a thing, my buddy Nate wrote a blog post, and he's like, "Hey, here are the brands we know that are filing IP complaints right now." And as soon as I read his blog post, I was like, "Dude, you can't just update this every single day." I'm like, "We've got to turn this into a Chrome extension so that it can be live and active on the computer while people are sourcing." And I don't know, within a week or two, we had it up and ready to go.
That's amazing.
It's a great tool.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Thank you.
If you guys need that, there'll be links below for that, and I'll make sure everything's linked, the OA challenge, all that kind of stuff for you guys if you want to check that out. I do part-time now. I make about $3,500 a month now. Should I take a class now or wait till I'm full-time seller? My items are mostly from thrift and clearance and some from leads from some people. And then they just dropped. They said 3,500 is the profit.
Oh, that's part-time. That's incredible. Yeah. If you think about that, the median household income, for typically two people is about $72,000 a year in the U.S. And I think the median income for a single person is like $52,000 or $53,000. So I mean that's almost a full-time income by itself, which is incredible. It would be completely up to you. If you think that you could take the time to do the course now, you could do it now, and hopefully some of the things you learn about like Keepa, or maybe even tactical arbitrage, maybe that might get you to 5,000 a month. I try not to say we're going to take you from 10,000 to 1 million overnight. I try to be realistic about it. But either way, I really try not to hard sell the course, because it's not for everybody, especially if time is going to be a huge factor. But I do think that things you would learn now would probably benefit you well into the future. If nothing else, the Keepa portion by itself.
That's why I respect Chris, because he doesn't hard sell stuff. Like, if you have to hard sell everything that like you sell courses and software and all this other stuff, like let it speak for itself. Like I rarely see. That's why I had no idea IP Alert. Like you were connected to IP Alert because I don't see you saying like, "Oh my God, come buy IP Alert." Just let it
Yeah,
speak for itself.
that is
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely not against selling or marketing or anything like that. But it is the best way to market is to build a killer product and then stand behind it. And that's really what I've tried to do. Because I'll be honest, I learned a hard lesson when I was selling insurance. I was really good at selling. I was not so great about standing behind the product and taking care of customers and doing the customer service on the back end. And so when we started building our own products, that was one of the kind of the core. It's kind of one of the core foundations of what we wanted to do is make sure that the product is bulletproof, and then we can market a little bit and let other people talk about it, and then it grows to something pretty nice.
Yeah, I definitely did not hear about it from you. Someone definitely told me about it. I don't remember who, but yeah, that's definitely one of the
Yes.
best things you could get. I mean, it's just like super safe, like IP alerts, especially when you're a beginner. Like that could be really devastating to your account to kind of get
Yeah.
one of those right off the bat. Over years of reselling and helping people resell, what is the most common reason people quit or beat themselves up?
I think one of the most common reasons people quit is because sourcing is hard. Like that's where people are always like, I can't find anything profitable. And for some people, this is just something that is in their nature. Um, John, I don't know how long it took you to find your first profitable item. Michaela, I've got a feeling that this was just kind of in your nature, and it's just I don't know. You just blew out of the gates, and so I just got a feeling that was just in you. For me, it took a month before I found anything profitable, and that was going to thrift stores. And so looking back, I know that I did not give myself enough chances at bat. I'd scan 100 books and I'd be out of the store. And and so I think that's where a lot of people get discouraged is, oh, well, I haven't found anything and it's been a week. Okay, but during that week, how many items have you actually looked at? If anybody tells me that they went out and did retail arbitrage and they haven't scanned every single item in one aisle, then I'm like, well, then you weren't trying hard enough. Because if I go to Publix or Winn-Dixie or any other grocery store here locally to me doing retail arbitrage, if I just pick one aisle, any aisle, you pick it, there's going to be at least one thing in that aisle that's profitable. And so I think people get discouraged really quickly because we can make it look easy. If the three of us were to start sourcing right now, I would imagine that we would all find something in the next 20, 30 minutes. But that skill and that muscle has been built up over how many failures, over how many hours. And new folks tend not to have that kind of grit and determination. And I think that's where most people stop at. Other than that, maybe returns. I think people come into this and don't realize, oh, I'm a retailer now. We should not call we are resellers, but more than that, we're retailers. And with that comes things like inventory that gets destroyed, inventory that's returned, scams, that kind of stuff happens. And so if you can really let that get to you and it can really make you upset, especially when you go and you're like, oh, well, I spent $5,000. My projected profit is $1,500. Oh, but I've got all these returns. So now my real profit is more like $750. And they're like, oh, well, this is a scam. Nobody actually makes money.
Always a
Yeah, no,
scam.
that's a really great point. It definitely did take me a while too. I mean, I started with books. So yeah, I mean, I always told people like you got to scan all the books in the thrift store. Like, if you kind of just cherry pick or like kind of yeah, eventually like what to look for, but like you the reason is because you scanned all the books like prior. And I think about one of the coolest things, like what you said, like if we were all the three of us were to go look for profitable products, like one of the coolest parts is like we'd probably all head in a different direction.
Oh
Or
yeah.
have something in our head like, you know what, if I need to find something in 20 minutes, like this is where I'm gonna go. I'm sure you have your spots, and Michaela would have her spots.
Mm-hmm.
What in the blue hell is 2D?
2D workflow. It's Larry's. Watch me, Amazon. I can't think of his last name.
Labarsky.
That's it. And he has his own like little software where you use 2D barcodes instead of, you know, like traditional Amazon labels. It's supposed to help with like check-in times. Mine, like I tried 2D workflow and I really liked it because it was just far more simple for like wholesale orders whenever you're like when you have like 100 units or something, just to send it in, you know, a couple boxes together. So it's not like you're mixing different ASINs in like a box together. It's like one box has this ASIN in it, this box has another ASIN in it. So that way, whenever it gets to Amazon, they know exactly what's in it, and it like cuts down on your check-in receiving times. But like since I live like 6 hours from my fulfillment center here in Ohio, like check-in times were never really that slow. But I did see like a slight difference. So.
Does all your stuff go to CMH?
No, in Greenville, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
And was it MDW2?
Yeah.
Well, some of it's going to IND2 now.
Just people up north don't know what Public is. You need to Kroger it for them.
Yeah, Kroger was a great source for retail arbitrage, especially their marketplaces. I absolutely crushed it on some toys and stuff from Kroger Marketplace, and also their 10 for 10 deals. You know, you go buy 10 boxes of mac and cheese for $10, and at the time we could flip that for a profit all the time.
Yeah, Godfather reselling is definitely in the house. If you guys have other questions, drop them in the chat. Chris is going to love this question. Seems like there are videos out there telling people return items back to the store if it doesn't sell. So I guess if it doesn't hurt the store, maybe it's supposed to say.
I'm gonna take this two different ways because I'm not sure how they mean it. So I have seen videos on TikTok of like even Amazon employees saying, "Hey, buy something, put a rock in the box, and return it back to Amazon. Nobody's ever going to know, and you're going to get your money back." And who's it hurt? Amazon's what their market valuation is over $1 trillion still, I think. Maybe it's a little less. I'm not sure, but who's it going to hurt? And even Amazon employees don't understand that it's mom and pops, it's small and medium-sized businesses who sell almost 60% of the inventory on Amazon. So who you're hurting is not Jeff and his mega yacht. It is Michaela. It's John. It is the grandma and grandpa who are reselling on the side to make a little bit of extra money outside of Social Security. And so those are absolutely not true. It does hurt. Now, should you return items that you get that are wrong or broken or things like that? Yeah, absolutely. But should you buy a $200 pair of shoes and send back the shoes you just finished cutting the grass in? No, and karma will end up coming back to you. Now, if we're talking things like ungating, or if we're talking about like you just made a bad buy, listen, if we're being honest, there have been times that I've done that. I didn't have the cash or the cash flow to be able to handle a bad buy. And so would I return something to Target? Yeah, I've done it before. Would I do it now? No. I eat my bad buys. They get donated or sold on another platform, or I take a little loss on them. But that's not so much that I'm worried about hurting Target's bottom line or Walmart's bottom line. That's more the fact that I think it can hurt the reseller community overall. You buy $1,000 worth of stuff, it ends up going bad, or it ends up being a bad buy, and you return that, and they flag you as a reseller. Well, then what are they going to do for their standards for everyone else who's reselling from their platform? There was several years ago when Walmart brought back their layaway program. I would know sellers who would go and put all these toys on layaway, which would take them out of the market for people who wanted to buy them. And then if they didn't pop like they thought they would say, oh, well, I don't want this item from this layaway any longer. And Walmart was okay with that. But if you're buying up every single, I don't know, Christmas teddy bear off the Walmart shelf and putting it on layaway, that ends up hurting the reseller in the long run.
I would never even think of that.
I didn't even think about that. That didn't even cross my mind.
I've seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's insane. And I think, too. I think for me too, with that, like, I get it. Like, I've actually never done it, but I don't know. I feel like for me, like, I get it. If you need to do it, you need to do it. But it's more of just like, I don't know. I think sometimes it like rolls into your business too, like less responsibility. Like you kind of made the mistake, or you decided to buy this to get ungated. Like you have to own that and just kind of roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got drugged for that on Twitter a few months ago. I don't know if anybody remembers that. And personally, like I see both sides of the coin. I see like if you're a new seller, I'm not saying like I do that now because I've got hundreds of things like ungates behind me, like that I give out for gifts and stuff. Not that I personally do it, but like I see it from like people who just started out. Am I saying it's like the morally correct thing to do to return those things? No. But like I see both sides of the coin, but
yeah. So one, nobody should ever drag anybody for their opinion on one thing or another. That
I got drugged right underneath the bus and got ran over.
Yeah, that sucks. It's okay to disagree while also being respectful. Yeah. And I totally get it. Like I would never judge a new seller for returning something because it was either a bad buy or it was used for ungating. It happens. I've been there. I get it. And when you're trying to build something up and maybe you only get to start with $100 or $250 or $500, like every penny really counts. So while I don't necessarily think it's the right way to do things, I am never going to give anybody a hard time because they have done it.
Yeah, I respect that.
What do you guys think about letting Amazon prep the products? I have a supplier who has great small and light products, but they do not provide prep service. They just send the pallets to the fulfillment centers.
You want me to take a stab at it first?
Yeah, I've never done it.
I have allowed Amazon to prep things for me in the past. It has never gone well. So here's the thing, and this was years and years ago. So I haven't done this in years. So you got to think about it this way. Your stuff is going into an Amazon warehouse where they have processes and procedures and SOPs in place. However, they also have turnover at, a higher rate than Taco Bell or McDonald's. They are churning through employees like on the hour, essentially. And so you then have to trust that someone off the street who, heck, I don't even know if you have to pass a drug test anymore to work at Amazon. The bar is pretty low. Okay. So you've got to trust that anybody will prep your products correctly. And chances are they're not going to, and you see that when you get something from Amazon that is prepped incorrectly, or, that glass or that crystal vase that you order for your wife shows up in a poly mailer, and it's in pieces. So I would never allow Amazon to prep for me. It needs to either be done in-house or from a prep center who's a partner and treats your inventory like their inventory.
Yeah, I've definitely heard nightmare stories about it, or like during Q4 and like they don't get prepped till like January. I just never went in and done it.
I don't trust them. Like Amazon, they mess up on certain aspects outside of prepping. So I'm like, don't think I wanted to do that. I'll just pay for somebody to do it who knows the rules and like they have the proper SOPs in place and everything.
Yeah. See, that you brought up a great point right there. If you let Amazon do it and they screw up and it's something that is bad enough that could get you a ding on your account or even a suspension, they're not going to take responsibility for that. It's on
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
I mean,
Amazon doesn't make mistakes. That's kind of like, that's rule number one in the Amazon handbook when people get hired.
Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
just send it to a prep center.
It's like people go to Savers. I feel that yearning that Kroger people do for the Publix.
So here's the thing: there is Kroger is in Florida. I don't know if they're in Florida as well or not, but Kroger does not have a physical storefront in Florida. But I can order all of my groceries from Kroger.com and have them delivered in a refrigerated truck. So it's possible to do OA in Florida from Kroger these days. I just can't go into a store and hit all the clearance stuff.
I've actually never been to a Kroger's. The only reason I know Publix is I used to go to Florida when I was younger all the time, and going to Publix was like the best thing ever. My aunt would take us, and was like, "This is amazing."
Well, you're in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
So Kroger's the largest grocery store in the country, and they've got several different brands. So there may be a brand that you have gone into, like a Fred Meyer or a few other different brands that they have. They have a whole nother brand in Colorado and California, but they have no footprint in Florida. But in Pennsylvania, you guys have Giant Eagle, which I also love. I actually worked at
Yeah.
Giant Eagle pushing carts when I was a kid.
That's where we shop. I love Giant.
They got a heck of a gas program too.
Oh God, yeah, it's the best. Chris, I always wonder what's the story behind the dinosaur head behind you.
Tiberius T. Rex Esquire is his name. I'm a bit of a nerd. Okay. Like if you're like, hey, what's the history of arbitrage? We're not just going to talk about the history of arbitrage on Amazon. We're going to go all the way back to like the Sumerians. All right. So when I am passionate about something, I tend to dive pretty deep, and I like dinosaurs, and I also saw another YouTuber have a dinosaur in his background, and I told my wife, I was like, this is really cool. I was like, yeah, I love reading about dinosaurs, and so for Christmas she bought me a replica dinosaur head, and I was like, we're gonna throw them in the back of every video.
That's awesome. What's up, Joji?
Hey, I'm gonna be talking to Joji tonight for the podcast.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Joji. You guys have questions? Keep dropping them. Chris, how is Alex doing?
Alex, so for those who don't know, Alex Moss is the founder of Tactical Arbitrage, a guy who took it from an idea all the way up to almost what it is today. But he's retired now, and he's doing really great. Spending a lot of time with his kids and his wife, and he's got a passion for pinball. So he's doing fantastic. Him and I. We've got a little group chat, and so we talk pinball on occasion, and we talk a lot about AI and ChatGPT, and try to make sure we stay up on what's going on. So he's doing really well.
That's awesome. What do you think are kind of, you mentioned ChatGPT a couple of times. What do you kind of think are some uses for like an online arbitrage seller?
So one of the things I really like to do with it is I tend to like to, I don't want to stick myself in any silo for a particular brand because I worry about platform risk. And what I mean by that is, let's say that my entire business was built on Lancome. Okay. Well, we know what happened there. Nobody can sell Lancome on Amazon any longer. And it's very likely Lancome is owned by L'Oreal Paris, I believe.
Yeah.
It's very likely that L'Oreal will eventually phase out some of their other brands that they own. For example, they just closed on ESOP recently in a $2.5 billion deal. So in the next 6 months, I wouldn't be surprised if the ESOP brand becomes closed off, because those two brands are a little bit on the higher end for L'Oreal. Okay. So what I like to do is, let's say that I have really good success with one particular brand, like Lancome. Lancome was something I've probably made tens of thousands of dollars in profit on. So I'll take ChatGPT and I'll say, hey, can you please tell me what the top 50 competitors are for this particular brand? Now, could I find that somewhere else? Yeah, I'd probably have to read 10 or 20 blog posts, or maybe I go and get a paid subscription to something like, oh, what is that site called? Anyway, there's a site that will tell you, or similar web. I go get a paid version of similar web, which is a few $100s a month, and I could pull together what the top 50 competitors are. But ChatGPT already knows. Now, it doesn't know the new brands after 2021, the stuff that's come onto the market and is really hot and being driven by TikTok influencers and things like that. But it will give me a lot of these legacy brands that I could then go and pull all the data up on and find out what's good to sell. And then I'll say, okay, well, now I've got these brands to go down, and I could do that for every single of those 50 brands. It's because Burt's Bees competitors might be just a little bit different than Lancome competitors, even though they're both kind of in the makeup category. Lancome is not really going to compete with CeraVe because Lancome doesn't have a lotion. CeraVe is a lotion. Burt's Bees has lotion, and so there's some intersection there. All right. And then the other thing I can do is, okay, well, I've done really well in the foundation vertical or the eye palette vertical. So I'll ask ChatGPT for women or people, shouldn't just say women, but for people who are buying eye palettes and foundation, what other products are they buying? What are the 10 most common products they're buying? And now maybe I am seeing blush and mascara and lipstick and things that I probably already know, but there might be one or two little items that I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that because I don't wear makeup very often. Since I don't wear makeup, I don't know every piece that my wife might already know about. Okay. And so I rely on ChatGPT to give me that kind of information. I can also use it to help me build out scripts for making phone calls to wholesalers. Maybe I find a brand that does really well and I reach out and maybe I absolutely bomb on the first call. But then I go to ChatGPT and I say, hey, I need you to act as a copywriter, as a cold caller, as an appointment setter. And if you have read any books about appointment setting or cold calling, you can say, I might want you to build me something in the style of, let's say, Dale Carnegie, and build me a script that I can build a personal relationship with a wholesaler, specifically in the Northeast, and make sure to use some details about the Northeast so that I can really build that rapport. All right. And then it'll come out with a script that you might be able to use. And you're going to need to fine tune it a little bit. And you can do the same thing for emails. I've had it build customer service emails and all kinds of things I probably haven't even thought about of yet.
Yeah, it's definitely, I've been playing around with it a little bit, not so much for Amazon, but maybe for like YouTube and social media and stuff. And I was listening, you're a big fan of My First Million podcast, and they were saying that there's going to be jobs of you coming up with things to ask. Like that will be the new job because like, I don't know anything about coding. So for me to say, hey, build a web, like that would be my knowledge. Like build a software, like that's probably not going to cut it for types of things.
Oh yeah, there's a job posting or a few job postings out currently where they're hiring prompt engineers starting at like $350,000 a year. And the crazy thing is that to become a prompt engineer, you don't need to have any technical background. You just need to figure out what works and what doesn't work with a large language model. And once you can figure that out, the stuff you can do is crazy. I saw a guy build a video game over a weekend with ChatGPT. Wow. He knows zero coding, and he used ChatGPT and Replit. And it was just a simple little game that you'd play on your phone. Like, when you don't have internet and Google Chrome gives you a little dinosaur game that you jump over stuff. Okay. So it's something very similar to that. But then, and it was just a stick figure. But then after a couple more hours, he turned it into kind of the floor is lava game. And there was a real person and the floor looked like lava. And there were places that you could jump and places you couldn't jump. And he built that over a weekend with zero coding knowledge whatsoever.
That's amazing.
Crazy.
Let's see what else we got here. Depending on the store, breaking even or taking a small loss on a bad buy is better than risking the account for future sourcing, since retailers seem to be paying more attention and keeping track now. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and we're going to see more of that. You know, we're in a weird economy. Like everyone seems to still be doing okay, but businesses are preparing for a bad time. You know, everyone's laying people off. You know, companies are tightening up. Google had to let go of 20 of their massage therapists that they keep on staff for their staff. So like it's tough times,
Been
you know.
rough.
And so yeah, there are going to be retailers out there who are being a little bit more watchful of the bottom line, but there's always ways around accounts getting banned. It's definitely not the end of the world.
Yeah, for me, even recently, I've just if they send the wrong thing, if I could find it on Amazon, I'll just sell it at break even or a loss, just to one avoid the headache and two just kind of stay under the radar. Once you start driving a Jag, you can't return RA items.
You can't return wholesale items anyway. If you do, it's like 10%, 15% restock fee, 20%. And it's a headache anyway. He wants to return a pallet.
Right.
Yeah.
A pallet, like I'll just, you know what I mean? I'll just use it.
What else we got here? You get a free cookie from Publix Baker if you ask for one.
I did not know that. That is
I did not know that
it's
either.
apparently a secret I have not. I'm not really a Floridian apparently. If I didn't know that.
And actually, in Miami, Reezy Resells was telling us that I forgot which supermarket it was, but they have like a sign that says hot bread, and if the bread isn't hot, you get it for free. And he says he goes every day, and the bread's never hot. He gets
Interesting. I wonder if it's Safeway. Safeway is a good store out there in
Yeah, that
California.
might sound right. Jody says, "Let's go." I just got booted off of DeWalt after selling at RA for many years. Anyone else get hit by Amazon for DeWalt?
I haven't gotten too deep into the tools category, so not me.
Chris, what is the number one advanced Keepa sourcing strategy?
That's a great question. There's a ton of them, but if I were going to choose one thing over everything else, it's going to be Keep a Product Finder. Keep a Product Finder is where you can find a ton of things. But if I were going to give just one strategy away, it would be looking for items with no sales rank, an increasing price point, and increasing number of reviews over the past 30, 90, and 180 days, because those are going to be products that are selling. Those are going to be products that are a lot of other people aren't looking for, especially new sellers. New sellers a lot of times are like, hey, you got to stay under 50,000 in sales rank or I don't know, the worst is going to happen. And so they'll totally gloss over things with no sales rank. And so you can kind of sneak in there, even on some fast moving products that other people just don't even know about.
Yeah, I have to say most of my sourcing I've been doing lately with actually Keep a Product Finder, and I'm loving like kind of the no rank stuff. There's just stuff that I don't know, like I feel like Keepa is very good, but there's just some stuff where you're just like, this definitely sells more. Like there's just no way. Like
Oh yeah.
that like this brand, every other item in this brand like flies. There's no way this one particular thing does not as well. I mean, obviously it could happen, but for the most part.
Yeah, Keep a Product Finder is an incredible tool. Someone asked me the other day, they're like, hey, do you think any product on Amazon will ever get 1 million reviews? And a few people that I was in the chat with are all like, no, that's never going to happen. Keep a Product Finder told me, you know, are there any products on Amazon with 1 million reviews? There's one physical product with 1 million reviews. It's the Echo Dot 3. So it's an Amazon product. The other products on Amazon that have more than 1 million reviews are all apps like Disney Plus and YouTube apps. But yeah.
Interesting. Do you think I don't know. I'll just ask them anyway. Do you think Chat GPT will ever be able to like interact with Keepa?
Maybe down the road, but it seems like computer vision is still pretty difficult. Like, so for example, uh, it is AI when you put a picture up into a software like Canva or uh, remove BG or remove.bg and say you just remove the background, for a headshot or something like that. That's artificial intelligence. It's computer vision. But even that is not perfect yet. So you're talking about needing to have, computer vision that can separate every single graph on a Keepa chart and figure out what the differences are. And then you need to also put in there, well, what exactly does each line mean? And so is it possible one day? Yeah, I would imagine probably so. But also the size, the TAM, the total addressable market for that kind of power in ChatGPT is so small that that's probably going to be way on the back burner. So I doubt our skills in forecasting via Keepa are going to be taken over by Skynet in the next 5 or even 10 years.
That's a good point. I miss Alex. Tactical Arbitrage Tuesday was the best. I enjoy your Tuesday night YouTube chats more, though. Chris, Spin the Wheel was best. I do remember the Spin the Wheels.
Yeah, that was a good time. I should probably bring something like that back. It was a lot of fun.
I've heard people using it to help / create writing lists. Yeah, I've definitely used that.
I used it to create an eBay listing not too long ago. It did way better than I would have taken the time to do.
Interesting. I've heard a lot of people use it to draft support messages for Amazon.
Yep.
Definitely helpful. Chris, great review you did on SellerAmp.
Oh, thank you.
What's going on, Kevin? Chris, any Keepa inaccuracies besides the no sales ranks listing that might give us a competitive advantage?
I need to think on this one a little bit. So here's the thing about Keepa. There's a lot of things that are can be inaccurate in Keepa. Keepa does its very best to give us the proper data, but they're kind of fighting a battle against Amazon all the time, and so the data is as good as it gets. Yeah, I guess it would just depend. One of the other things I guess you could look at is you could look at products that maybe don't have a lot of Keepa drops. Let's say, for example, if you look at Keepa drops, if that's a metric that you use, which I don't suggest using Keepa drops, but if that's a method you use, if you go and look at stuff, let's say with 9 Keepa drops per month, well, you're going to see things that are selling incredibly fast, like the Croc shoe, which sells tens of thousands of units a month, and you're going to see things that sell really, really pretty slow. There's probably some things you could do there. You could find products that are out of stock on Amazon and have been out of stock for, over 30 days that you could bring. There's a lot of those things you could probably bring back to market at a price the market will bear. But other than that, I have to think about it. There's just so much you can do with the product finder. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I actually just kind of brought back, I decided to try it based on kind of watching your stuff to try to bring a product back. And it's actually working really well.
Nice.
Surprisingly.
Nah, it's not. Listen, here's the thing. If the data shows that it was selling, at a price point that the market was paying for it, and you just bring it back in stock. So there's one other thing that I'll check. Okay, if a product is out of stock, but Keepa looks great, I will go and I'll check the autofill on Amazon in the search bar. So open up an incognito window, open up Amazon, go to the search bar, and just start putting in the keywords you would use to look for that particular product. So I don't know. Let's say it's Kraft macaroni and cheese. If I put in Kraft Mac and then it fills out macaroni and cheese for me, and that's the exact product I have, chances are it's going to sell on Amazon. Um, that's how I figure out whether or not I'm going to create a new bundle on Amazon or bring a new product to Amazon. So, for example, every single year, Walgreens has a new flavor of candy corn. All right. It's already a disgusting candy that nobody should eat. And when Walgreens makes it worse every year, I hurt Michaela's feelings.
Michaela must be a
I love
candy.
candy corn. It's one of my favorite candies.
I do not like candy.
And conversation hearts during Valentine's Day.
No, Michaela. You're making me sad.
Ugh.
So, but every year Walgreens brings a new flavor to market. And this past, I don't know, one year was taco truck. Okay. So before it ever came to Amazon, you could go to the search bar and you could type in taco truck candy corn, and it would fill in for you. It would say Brock's taco truck candy corn exclusive, or it'd have a few different keywords. If it's showing up there, chances are you can create a listing and get some sales, probably without any PPC. But I run a little PPC on them just to give them a little juice.
Are you creating the listing, or someone else does it?
If it's a quick hitter like that, I do it. If it's not something that's gonna sell for me for the next year, it takes 5 minutes.
Cool. Yeah, if you guys have any last minute questions, we'll start wrapping it up here. Yeah, no, this has been awesome. Have you on here. It's been crazy meeting you like a month ago.
Yeah, it was fun.
Pizza.
Pizza. Definitely.
Miami was a fun trip. I look forward to next year.
Fun. So fun.
It was so much fun. What was this? My landlord is evicting me because of 10 pit bulls. I think that's for Michaela. In the basement, anyone have an almost ready investment property?
Mine's already rented out, actually.
Oh, nice.
You got a renter already?
Yeah, he's moving. Him and his fiance. She's moving from Tennessee, but they're moving in next Saturday. And then the house that I just got on auction already has a renter in it. So
that's awesome. Did you buy it sight unseen, just via the auction pictures?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. You've got so much more guts than I do, and I love it.
I like that. What is it, the South Park, where that guy has his balls in the wheelbarrow?
Yeah, yes. We were literally about to do this, and Michaela texted me. She's like, "I'm gonna be late. I'm buying a house online." I'm like, "Okay, we'll talk about it when you get here."
No, the good thing is my realtor was boots on the ground, so it's in Akron, Ohio. So it's only 2 hours from me, but I wasn't able to go and see it during the open house because I had an appointment in Pittsburgh, and my dad had to get his taxes done. So I was like, hey, go up there, look at it. He's a contractor as well. So he was like, it's in perfect condition. It doesn't need anything. It's turnkey. It's ready to go. So I've seen the outside and everything. I'm waiting for the appraisal now. It was supposed to be today. Just to make sure. But yeah.
Thoughts on how Amazon determines bestseller rank? Do you think it's actually by the number of sales, number of daily/monthly visits, or some combination of those metrics?
So Amazon sort of tells us. If you go looking for it really, really deep in the Amazon documentation, they give us kind of an idea of how they figure out bestseller rank. Bestseller rank is something that is done by several factors. It is the number of sales of a product, but it's not just the number of sales, it's the number of sales compared to the items in that category. Okay, so the item that is ranked number 1 in toys and games needs to be selling much, much faster than the item that's ranked 500 in toys and games. But there's another layer to it. There is recency and frequency. So a recent sale of a product has more weight on the BSR than an older sale does. But the length of history of the product on Amazon also is a determining factor of the BSR. So if something has sold consistently for 2 years on Amazon, it may have a better sales rank than something that has been on Amazon for a week that might be selling a little bit faster. And that's what makes figuring out the actual velocity based on the sales rank so difficult, is because while we kind of understand what gives us sales rank, we don't know all of the factors that go into it, or how much weight Amazon gives to particular factors. So we just have to kind of say, okay, we can take some estimates from Seller Amp and Jungle Scout and FBA Toolkit and Tactical Arbitrage and kind of mesh them all together. Fortunately, we can kind of look at Amazon's numbers now that they're sharing those a little bit. Although I've been told by a few private label sellers that those numbers seem to be inaccurate. So my whole thing is what you need to do is you need to say, if there is velocity on a product, then it's time for me to do a test buy. And if that test buy goes well, it's time for me to replenish. And that's one of the difficulties about Amazon, is that we're always kind of working in the unknown. We're not completely blindfolded, but we've got some really dark sunglasses on, that Amazon gave us on purpose.
Yeah, no, it definitely can be frustrating at times. Like, that's why I've just been like a big fan of just test buying lately, and just kind of finding out for myself, because that's definitely the best data I've found. And then we'll wrap it up with this. What does your kind of team look like right now in terms of like online arbitrage, and kind of how do you do it like daily?
Yeah, it is. My team is very small, probably to my detriment. I've got a virtual assistant who does some manual sourcing and runs some tactical arbitrage stuff for me, and makes a buy list. And that is where a lot of newer leads come from. I am a big fan of lead lists, for a different reason than most people are. I don't really buy off of lead lists, but they are great, what I call rabbit trailheads, where I'll say, okay, oh, well, this brand of lipstick is on the lead list today. Okay, well, I'm going to look at this brand, but I'm going to look at all these different colors. And then I'm coming up on 40,000 leads in my database of old online arbitrage leads. And so I can go back through my CheddarSoft, and I can find profitable products just by throwing a dart, and looking at stuff that's 3 months old or 6 months old or 3 years old. And if I can't find a profitable product from a lead, I can pretty easily rabbit trailhead down it. And because I have so much ADD, it is super fun to go down these rabbit holes for an hour or two. And then I have a prep center.
That's awesome. Yeah. Rabbit trails are probably like one of my favorite ways to find an old leads. That product I actually brought back was out of stock for like 6 months. And I don't know, randomly clicked on it. And I was like, they're back in stock. And at Amazon, like, no one's been on. I'm like, I'll buy 5. They sold within a day.
That's awesome.
Like, wow. Okay. Where can people find you? When does the OA challenge start? And anything else you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah. So, Braden has a quick question. Is it okay if I answer those real quick?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he said, hey, Chris. Okay, here we go. Go for it. What kind of vetting do you do for IP alert? Do you think it's possible for people to file false IP alerts for brand? Okay, you got it.
Braden, we sort of covered this at the beginning, but I require proof of an IP complaint, which John said was kind of a pain, but there's a reason that we do that. We do need to have a barrier to entry. And then I also go and do my own research. I don't just add a brand because John said they filed an IP complaint on me. I go and check Keepa. I go and check forums, like Reddit, like the Amazon seller forums. I sacrifice myself to the Amazon seller forum so that you guys don't have to.
I was just going to say that's a big service.
That place is the worst. And so I do my very best to make sure that IP complaints are absolutely legit. Like I said before, if 123 at qq.com is the one who filed the IP complaint, I'm very, very leery about that. But if it is john@thebrandname.com, that one I'll take a little bit more serious. And then we try to pull those brands off as well when we know that they're not filing IP complaints anymore. Do I think that you should skip every product that's on IP Alert? No, not necessarily. You need to combine IP Alert with Keepa, with asking other people questions. I know people who use IP Alert regularly, and when there is an IP Alert on a product, they typically buy double. And the reason is because either they think they might get in and nobody will file an IP complaint on them before they're out, or they don't mind just taking the chance on it and fighting the IP complaints as they come, knowing that there might be less competition. The thing is IP Alert is only used by a small, no, compared to the number of sellers on Amazon, the number of IP Alert customers we have is fairly small. So there's that as well. But yeah, and then I'll even sometimes reach out to the brands, if I can find the brand contact information, or if it's a smaller mom and pop brand, we'll reach out to them directly. And we've had 5 or 6 brands that we've added in that way, because we know that those brands are going to file IP complaints if people hop on their listings. So a lot of different ways to figure it out.
Yeah, I've definitely gone both ways where I get on the listing and it goes fine. I've found it's usually when you start to really start to sell it that they start to get a little annoyed.
Yeah. IP Alert is really just a data point for people to use to gauge their own risk profile. So I will sell on things where IP Alert shows up where I know that IP complaints have happened. For me, a lot of times it's to test whether or not it's still happening, but you really just have to figure out your own risk tolerance. Most IP complaints are combated fairly easily with legitimate receipts or invoices, and they're not the end of the world like they used to be. It used to be you get 2 or 3 IP complaints and you get suspended, and it's not that way any longer.
Yeah. All right, I think that's all the questions. So where can people find you? When does the next OA challenge start? And anything you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah. So on social media, I am at Clear the Shelf everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. That's my handle and even TikTok, although I don't make TikTok videos. I'm too old. Cleartheshelf.com is my blog, and where all of our content lies. We create at least 1 new blog post a week to help the Amazon community, and you can sign up for the email newsletter there. I send an email every single Friday called 5 Things Friday, with pieces of news and things like that for the Amazon community. The OA Challenge, we start on April the 24th, which is 2 weeks, just a little over 2 weeks away.
Okay.
So we'll start, it'll start at 6 p.m. Eastern on Monday, April 24th, and we will go every single day for 14 days straight.
That's awesome. Joji says, looking forward to tonight. Well, thank you so much for being here, taking the time. We really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next Friday.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.